The air aboard the Zrathi command ship buzzed with the cold efficiency of war. General Rockthal stood tall, his crimson armor gleaming under the pale, artificial light. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed across the vast bridge as he addressed his officers. "The humans are weak," he began, his tone carrying the weight of centuries of conquest. "They cling to their fragile lives, hiding behind their frail walls and primitive machines. They fear the clash of war, the raw brutality of combat. And that fear makes them predictable." The officers nodded, their sharp features twisted in expressions of agreement. They shared their general's contempt for the human race. The Zrathi had ravaged countless worlds, breaking civilizations with the same ease a predator might crush its prey. To them, humanity was no different. "Our forces have taken their colonies with little resistance," Rockthal continued, gesturing to a holographic map of the system. "Their cries for mercy are but whispers now. Earth's leaders will see their folly when we strike the heart of their fragile alliance." The bridge fell silent for a moment, save for the hum of the ship's engines. One of the younger officers hesitated before speaking. "General," the officer began, his voice unsteady. "There is a rumor among the humans. A name they whisper in the shadows." Rockthal turned slowly, his sharp, predatory eyes locking onto the officer. "Speak plainly, Commander. I have no patience for human superstitions. They call it Baba Yaga," the officer said, the words awkward on his alien tongue. "A myth, perhaps, but some say it is no ordinary warrior. It is something they fear, even more than us." Rockthal's laughter boomed across the bridge, deep and mocking. "Baba Yaga? A child's tale to comfort themselves as we crush their worlds. Do you fear shadows, Commander? Do you cower at the stories of a desperate race?" The officer stiffened, his pride stung by the rebuke. "No, General. Of course not. But reports." "Enough," Rockthal barked, cutting him off. "Humanity hides behind its stories because it has no strength. Let them dream of saviors while we erase them from the stars." Just then, a low chime interrupted the conversation. A communications officer glanced at their console, their usually calm demeanor now uneasy. "General, we are receiving a transmission. It's encrypted, originating from an unidentified vessel." Rockthal's brow furrowed. "Play it." The bridge's speakers crackled with static, and then a voice, distorted and cold, filled the air. It spoke in perfect Zrathi, the words deliberate and chilling. "I am coming." A silence heavier than any before fell over the bridge. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence shaken for the first time. "Trace that signal," Rockthal commanded, his voice hard. "Prepare all defenses." This is nothing but a human trick, but deep within him, beneath the bravado and arrogance, a faint, unfamiliar sensation stirred. For the first time in his long career of conquest, General Rockthal felt the whisper of doubt. The Zrathi flagship trembled ever so slightly as the EMP blast washed over it. Systems flickered, the hum of its colossal engines momentarily stuttering before stabilizing. On the bridge, General Rockthal's voice cut through the rising tension. "What happened?" he demanded, his crimson gaze locking onto the ship's engineers. "General," one of them stammered, claws tapping furiously at their console, "an EMP strike. Origin unknown. Our long-range sensors and external defenses are offline." Before Rockthal could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. The same distorted voice from the earlier transmission echoed throughout the ship, calm and deliberate. "Baba Yaga has arrived." A cold shiver passed through the crew, though none dared show it. Rockthal clenched his fists, his voice a growl. "This is a human ploy. Restore communications. Deploy the boarding guards to investigate. Find whoever is responsible for this insult and bring them to me." The bridge's lights flickered again, dimming slightly. For a moment, the vast command center was bathed in an eerie, shifting glow. A security officer reported from a nearby terminal, his voice tense. "General, we're detecting movement in the lower decks. Minimal life signs, but something is there. Send a patrol to eliminate them," Rockthal snapped. We are not playing games with these vermin. In the lower decks, the Zrathi soldiers advanced cautiously, their weapons raised. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the hiss of ventilation systems and the occasional distant clang of metal. One soldier paused, his sharp eyes scanning the corridor ahead. Then, without warning, the lights went out. The darkness was absolute, and the soldiers' comms crackled with faint static. A soft sound echoed. Footsteps, deliberate and slow. "Who's there?" one of the soldiers barked, his voice betraying a hint of fear. No answer came. Instead, the footsteps grew louder, closer. Suddenly, a red beam of light pierced the darkness, illuminating a figure cloaked in shadow. The soldiers opened fire, the corridor flashing with bursts of energy. When the lights flickered back on, the figure was gone, and the soldiers found themselves alone. "General," a voice called from the bridge's intercom, frantic and panicked. "The patrol has been wiped out." No signs of. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only silence. Rokthal's anger boiled over. "Enough of this," he roared. "Seal the lower decks. I want all remaining forces to sweep the ship. This human will not leave alive." But as his orders were relayed, reports flooded in from other sections of the ship. Power surges. Systems failing. Soldiers disappearing without a trace. Panic began to spread, the once formidable crew succumbing to fear. In the command center, Rokthal's confidence wavered. The tales of Baba Yaga that he had mocked now felt disturbingly real. This was no ordinary enemy. This was something else, something relentless, precise, and terrifying. Suddenly, the ship's main holoscreen lit up. The figure from the lower decks appeared, their face obscured by a sleek combat helmet. Their voice, calm and measured, resonated through the bridge. "You think humanity fears war. You think we cower before your strength. But you don't know us. Not really. I am here to teach you." Before Rokthal could respond, the figure vanished from the screen, replaced by static. Around him, his officers looked to him for guidance, their expressions betraying their growing unease. "Stand firm," he bellowed, his voice cutting through the tension. "This is a human illusion meant to deceive us. We are Zrathi. We will not falter." But even as he spoke, the bridge's lights dimmed once more, and the haunting words echoed through the ship again. "Baba Yaga is here." The ship's vast corridors were silent now, the kind of silence that pressed down on the senses and made even the most seasoned Zrathi soldier second-guess every sound. In that oppressive quiet, the predator had become prey. General Rokthal paced the bridge, his claws tapping rhythmically against the floor. Reports of entire squads disappearing without a trace flooded in, each one more unnerving than the last. The human so-called Baba Yaga was no mere myth. It was something far worse. "Activate the internal security measures," he barked, his voice sharper than usual. "Flood the lower decks with nerve gas. Leave nothing to chance." The engineers obeyed, flipping switches and typing commands. A hiss echoed through the ship as the gas was deployed. For a brief moment, Rokthal allowed himself to believe that the problem was solved. Then came the alarms. "General," an officer shouted. "Deck 7 is venting atmosphere. We're detecting deliberate breaches in the hull. How is that possible?" Rokthal roared, turning toward the holomap of the ship. On it, entire sections flickered red, indicating catastrophic damage. "The breaches are precise," the officer continued, his voice shaking. "They're not random attacks. It's strategic. They're cutting off our movement." The realization sank in like a stone. Baba Yaga wasn't merely hiding. They were hunting. Rokthal snarled, slamming a fist onto the command console. "Send the elite guard," he ordered. "Track this intruder. Do not return until you have their head." Deep within the ship, the elite guard moved swiftly, their heavy armor and advanced weaponry making them the most formidable warriors in the Zrathi fleet. They were trained to handle any enemy, to face any threat without hesitation. But even they were not prepared for what awaited them. They moved as a unit, their formations tight, their movements calculated. Yet one by one they began to falter. It started with the lights dimming again, the oppressive darkness swallowing their surroundings. "Stay alert," their captain commanded, his voice steady. A sudden clang echoed to their left, then another to their right. The sounds were deliberate, calculated, meant to disorient. The captain raised his weapon, his gaze scanning the shadows. Then came the first strike. A soldier at the rear of the formation was there one moment, gone the next. No sound, no warning, just empty space where he had been standing. Panic rippled through the squad as they realized they were being picked off. "Hold your ground," the captain barked, but his voice betrayed the fear clawing at his mind. The figure appeared then, emerging from the shadows with a fluidity that defied logic. The black combat suit absorbed the dim light, making them seem like a living shadow. Their movements were precise, each strike a masterclass in lethality. The elite guard fought valiantly, but it was no use. Baba Yaga moved faster than they could react, dismantling their formation with surgical precision. The last thing the captain saw was the reflective visor of their helmet before darkness claimed him. On the bridge, Rockthal's claws dug into the armrests of his chair as he listened to the final, desperate screams of his elite guard over the comms. Then silence. "General," another officer said, his voice trembling, "our forces, they've been eliminated. There's no one left to stop them." Rockthal turned toward the holomap again, his expression a mixture of rage and fear. The red sections of the ship continued to spread, marking the intruders' path. They were moving toward the bridge. "They're toying with us," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. This is not war. It's something else." The realization hit him like a blow. Baba Yaga wasn't just a warrior. They were a weapon of psychological warfare, breaking their enemy long before the final blow was struck. As the lights on the bridge flickered once more, Rockthal gritted his teeth. "If they want the bridge, they will have to face me themselves." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. This was no longer a battle. This was a reckoning. Baba Yaga was coming, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. The bridge was deathly quiet now, save for the faint hum of the ship's system struggling to maintain power. The once proud Zrathi officers, who had carried themselves with unshakable confidence, stood frozen, their eyes darting to every shadow, every flickering light. None dared speak. None dared move. General Rockthal sat rigid in his command chair, his clawed hands gripping the armrests. He stared at the main door to the bridge, the only entrance, now reinforced with layers of blast-proof material. Behind that door lay the one they called Baba Yaga. "Status report," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. An officer hesitated before answering, his voice barely above a whisper. "They've breached the final bulkhead, General. The bridge is the last secure point." Rockthal's gaze never wavered from the door. "And the self-destruct? Is it ready?" "Yes, General," the officer replied, his claws trembling as they hovered over the activation panel. "A single command will overload the core and destroy the ship." Rockthal nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good. If they come for us, they will not leave this ship alive." As if in response, the ship's lights dimmed again, plunging the bridge into near darkness. Emergency lighting flickered to life, casting the room in a blood-red glow. The tension was suffocating. Then came the sound. A low, metallic screech echoed through the room, a deliberate and unnerving sound that set every nerve on edge. The officers flinched, their eyes snapping toward the door. The sound came again, louder this time, closer. "Hold your positions," Rockthal barked, though even he could feel his composure slipping. The door groaned, a series of sharp, deliberate impacts reverberating through the air. Whatever was on the other side was taking its time, each strike a calculated show of power. Then, with a final, deafening crash, the door gave way. Smoke and sparks filled the air as the figures stepped through the breach. They moved with an eerie calm, their black combat suit gleaming in the crimson light. The helmet obscured their face, the reflective visor concealing any hint of humanity. Rockthal rose to his feet, his imposing frame towering over the officers who shrank back in fear. "So, the legendary Baba Yaga finally shows their face," he sneered, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The figure said nothing, their silence more intimidating than any words could be. They took a slow step forward, then another, their presence radiating an unshakable confidence. Rockthal snarled, drawing his blade, a weapon forged from the strongest alloys of his homeworld. You think you can intimidate me? I am General Rockthal of the Zrathi Empire. I have conquered 100 worlds. You are nothing but a human playing at being a monster. Still, Baba Yaga said nothing. They raised their hand, and in an instant, a small device in their palm emitted a low hum. The bridge's systems shut down completely, plunging the room into utter darkness. Rockthal swung his blade blindly, the weapon's edge slicing through the air. "Fight me, coward," he roared. A voice cut through the darkness, calm and cold. "You think I fear you?" The words were simple, but they carried a weight that pressed down on everyone in the room. The officers froze, their fear paralyzing them. "You came to our worlds," the voice continued, "thinking us weak, thinking us afraid. But you don't understand humans. You don't understand what fear does to us." A sudden flash of light revealed the figure standing inches from Rockthal. The general swung his blade, but it was effortlessly caught, twisted from his grasp with a strength that defied reason. "Fear," the voice said, "is what makes us dangerous." Rockthal stumbled back, his bravado crumbling. "Wait," he pleaded, his once commanding tone reduced to desperation. "We can negotiate. I can give you wealth, power, anything you desire." The figure stepped closer, their movements unhurried. "You think this is about me? About what I want?" They leaned in, their visor inches from Rockthal's face. "This is about everyone you've hurt, every world you've burned, every life you've destroyed. And now it ends." Rockthal fell to his knees, his once proud form trembling. "Please," he begged, his voice breaking. "Spare me. I was wrong. Humans are—" The voice cut him off, cold and final.
"Yes.
"You were." Without another word, the figure turned to the command console, their fingers moving with precision. Alarms blared as the self-destruct sequence began, the countdown echoing across the bridge. The officers scrambled, their fear overtaking any semblance of loyalty. But Baba Yaga remained still, their silhouette a haunting reminder of the price of arrogance. As the countdown reached its final moments, the figure turned toward the door, walking away without a backward glance. The last thing General Rockthal saw was the glow of the explosion reflected in the figure's visor. The last thing he felt was regret. The Zrathi flagship erupted in a blinding flash, its destruction visible across the system. For those who witnessed it, the legend of Baba Yaga would be etched into their memories forever. A reminder that humanity was not to be underestimated. And in the void, the figure vanished, leaving only silence and the haunting truth: humanity did not fear war. War feared humanity.